So just a few days ago, the NBA trade deadline happened and some big trades happened. The biggest trade that happened was James Harden going to the Sixers and Ben Simmons going to the Brooklyn Nets. And if a week prior you had told me that James Harden would be on the 76ers and Ben Simmons would be on the Brooklyn Nets, I would have called you crazy and asked if you were okay. But this actually did happen, and it's one of the biggest trades of the year. It has potential to be one of the biggest trades ever. That has led me to make this video where I'll just be discussing the trade on the Brooklyn Nets side of the move and discussing whether or not I think they were winners or losers. But before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to help me go with 3,000 subscribers, also drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments, and play that intro. But first of all, we have to discuss what the Brooklyn Nets gave up in this trade. And honestly, it's kind of simple. They gave up James Harden, top 10 player in the league, NBA superstar, and Paul Millsap, who wasn't really doing that well for them. First of all, giving up Paul Millsap is not a big deal at all. He wasn't playing, but them giving up James Harden is very much a big deal, because Harden is clearly a top 10 player in the league and an NBA superstar. A big advantage the Brooklyn Nets had was that they were by far the most talented team out of any other team in the Eastern Conference, probably even the whole NBA, and now that advantage is gone. If Kyrie Irving was going to play every single home game, I wouldn't even consider it as big of a deal, but them losing him for only half the games is really tough, because now outside of Kevin Durant and Kyrie, no one else on this team can create their own shot. Literally no one else on this team is as good of a playmaker as James Harden. Ben Simmons is a good one, but he's not James Harden. And in the games Kyrie is not allowed to play, it would be good to just have a guy who could go off, score 25 points or possibly even more, like James Harden would have done if when Kyrie's not playing. But now you're going to be dependent on a guy like Ben Simmons in the playoffs, who has been one of the worst playoff performers of the last few seasons, and dependent on guys like Seth Curry and Patty Mills, who are role players. That's the advantage that they lost in this trade when they had to give up James Harden. Also, they just lost someone who the defense really has to pay attention to. The Brooklyn Nets, fully healthy with Kyrie Irving playing, definitely would be title favorites, but now even if they're fully healthy with Ben Simmons, there's still a question of whether or not they could win the championship. And although I said all of this stuff, the Nets are still legit title contenders. They very much could make it out the East, but all I'm saying is with James Harden, they were basically unbeatable, but now there's actually a chance they can lose. But at the end of the day, you have to look at it in the way that James Harden did not want to be in Brooklyn. He basically requested a trade, but he was too scared of a backlash, which was very soft in my opinion. And honestly, I'd rather have a team of Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and Ben Simmons than having a James Harden who doesn't even want to play for you. Because the James Harden that doesn't want to play for you, most times as of late, hasn't been a top 10 player in the league. So I think the Brooklyn Nets had to move on from him, and I think they actually got a really good package in return for him, because getting an all-star level player and two really good role players along with future picks is a pretty good return in my opinion. Now to talk about what the Brooklyn Nets got in return for James Harden. They got Seth Curry back, they got Andre Drummond back, they got Ben Simmons back, and they got 2 future first-round picks back. And honestly, I think it's a really solid move. First, I want to talk about Ben Simmons. He's an all-star level player. He's a young guy. He's a guy who could potentially improve and go better, become a top 10 player as his career goes along. He's one of the best finishers in the league, one of the best playmakers in the league. He's also a top 5 defender in the league, probably the most versatile defender in the league, and he just does so much things at a great level outside of his shooting ability. But he still is a guy who I think can really help this Brooklyn Nets team, because the Nets have been pretty bad on defense, and I think Ben Simmons is a good enough defender to where he can carry your whole team defense and make you just way better with him being alone on the court. I think the Brooklyn Nets can go from being the 20th best defense that they have been so far around there to being the 12th best defense, and that's a huge improvement. I think he's going to be great for this team. I think he's going to be looking forward to the new scenery. It's been reported. I hope he plays quite soon, but I heard heard that he has to like take some mental help or whatever before he plays again, but I think he'll play very soon. And I honestly think he's gonna flourish alongside Kevin Durant and the floor spacing on this Brooklyn Nets team. They have so much shooters. They also got Seth Curry, which is an amazing pickup. Curry's one of the best shooters in the league, one of the best off-ball players in the league, one of the best role players in the league. Perfect role player for anyone. He can play with anyone. A guy who can occasionally hit difficult shots, create his own shot. He's gonna be amazing for this team. The shooters on this team, like Patty Mills and Seth Curry, are going to be really scary, because if you double team Ben Simmons or double team Kevin Durant, you leave one of those guys wide open, it's a for sure bucket. Also, I could tell you something about Andre Drummond. He's really inconsistent. Some nights he actually looks like a top 10 center who should be started, and some nights he looks like he should be in the D League. But so far this season, he's actually been one of the better backup centers in the league, so hopefully he could just continue to do that, come off the bench. But regardless, I think he's going to keep coming off the bench. I think he's a solid player though. The 2 first-round picks they got are very solid because they're first-round picks. I doubt they're going to be even top 15 in the draft, because I don't think the 76ers are going to be one of the worst teams in the league for a few years now. But there is a chance that maybe they could fall off. Maybe Embiid gets injured. So I wouldn't like totally count it out, but I wouldn't predict them to be like very, very valuable. But overall, I think this is an amazing move for them in my opinion. They improved defensively. They got more depth on the team, got more shooting. And although Ben Simmons is way worse than James Harden, I still think he can help them a lot, especially on defense. So you could argue that at full strength with this roster, maybe they improved like overall as a roster. So therefore, I don't think the Brooklyn Nets lost this trade, but I also don't think the 76ers lost this trade. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know whether or not you think the Brooklyn Nets won this trade or lost this trade. Drop a like on this video. I hope my channel grows. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to go 3,000 subscribers. Also, drop a comment on this video, as I do respond to all of my comments. And play that intro.